Conor McGregor has been going on a media tour for his new movie, Roadhouse. And in this media tour, where he's done interview after interview after interview, he has exposed Dana White for his multiple lies about why Conor McGregor has not returned to the UFC, the question that's been on everyone's mind, and especially on Michael Chandler's mind. So I want to make a video. We're going to look at some clips that we've already looked at in the past, but we're going to expose Dana White. We're going to go look at some kind of questions that he was prompted with a month ago, 2 months ago, and the way he responded about Conor McGregor. And then we're going to take a look at what Conor McGregor has to say recently. And there's actually one clip I found when I was kind of investigating this whole thing. And it was a clip that I missed from 4 months ago. From 4 months ago in Saudi Arabia, that further proves my theory about what's going on with Conor McGregor. But basically the purpose for this video is Dana White says a lot of crazy stuff and he lies constantly. And I understand he's a promoter. Someone's going to comment that down below. Well, he's a promoter. What do you expect? He is selling you wolf tickets. He is selling Michael Chandler wolf tickets. He is lying about what's truly going on, and we're going to set the record straight in this video. Obviously, I don't know every detail, but I can give you my best educated guess, and I can support it with evidence from interviews of Dana White and interviews of Conor McGregor. And the most recent interview that Conor McGregor did with the Mac Life to promote his movie, he finally came out and said what I've literally been saying for months. And this was a day after I did a video, a couple days ago about this situation. This was like a day after that, so I want to include that in this video. We're going to take a look at that towards the end of this video. But let's start off right away with Dana White and Kevin Iole. These next two clips I'm going to show you, one from Kevin Iole, one from UFC 298 post-fight. By the way, every video I use in this video, I will link down in the description. You can go check it out, support their channels, whatever. These are two of my favorite exchanges with Dana White about Conor McGregor. Let's watch Dana White start to squirm a little bit as Kevin Iole actually starts to press him on the Conor McGregor situation. And then we're going to see basically argument by argument later in the video, Conor McGregor debunk these things that Dana White is saying. So let's listen to this.
But you said it when you talked to Pat McAfee that Conor hopefully in the fall. Why is it taking so long for him? Is he injured? Like, can you explain what the scenario is? That why we don't have clarity? This has been almost 3 years since he's been hurt.
Well, you got to first of all, he is coming back from one of the nastiest injuries you can come back from. How long was Anderson Silva out when he did it?
He's coming back from a nasty injury. Conor's been saying he's healthy for a while. Also, how long was Anderson Silva out? He was out for 399 days, December 28th, 2013 to January 31st, 2015. Conor McGregor is creeping up on 1,000 days since he's been out. So there you go. That's easily debunked, but we're going to get to Conor saying the truth about that soon.
How long was Chris Weidman out when he did it?
847 days.
The guys who break that bone. So that's an issue right there, number one. Number two is Conor McGregor doesn't need the fucking money.
Right.
So
this is something we've heard him say multiple times. We're going to see it in the next clip as well. He doesn't need money. What exactly does that mean, Dana? What does it mean he doesn't need money? We understand that he has plenty of money, but he said publicly that he wants to fight. So what's going on?
When you don't need the money, it's not as easy. I mean, Habib doesn't need the money. Habib retired.
So I said this in the original video I did about this. Thank God Kevin Iole actually pressed him a bit here. Shout out to him.
So would it be fair to say that if Conor's not fighting now, is he healthy enough to fight if he chose to fight?
Well, I don't know that. Only Conor knows that.
Well, okay, that's what I'm at.
You don't have any idea about the health of the biggest star in your organization. But we're going to get an answer from Conor in this video. We're going to take a look at an answer from Conor. Is he healthy or not?
Asking. So do you?
Conor's the one. I mean, these are questions for Conor McGregor, not me. Conor, I know he's training. I don't know what level of training he's doing. I don't know what level of kicking he's doing right now. I don't know any of that stuff.
So he knows nothing about Conor McGregor.
You talked to him about fighting. I mean, I'm sure you talked to him about fighting on 300. So you would have to have some idea, wouldn't you, Dana?
Yeah, but I need to know the guy's in a full camp and he's ready to go. And Conor McGregor
I need to know he's in a full camp and ready to go. Remember that one as well. So injury and full camp.
There's a movie coming out. He's got businesses that he's built. It's a completely different dynamic when you're dealing with a guy that has this kind of money.
So there you go. It's a completely different dynamic. He has money. He has an injury. You know, I need to know that he's in a full camp before I book him for a fight that I've been promoting for a while now, basically, which is just craziness. Now, this next exchange is at UFC 298 post-fight presser. This was one of my favorite exchanges with Dana White ever in the history of a post-fight press conference, because this media member actually presses Dana hard, and I've showed this in a previous video as well, but the same arguments from Dana White again and again and again.
With regard to Conor McGregor, what is the holdup with his return?
Great question.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, the Ultimate Fighter was over back in August, and I can't imagine the plan was for him to be out as long as he's been.
Well,
Look how pissed Dana is from that question in general. And he hates this media member. I think this was like a local media member in California or wherever 298 was. I believe, yeah, it was in California at the Honda Center. They, because the regular MMA media that travels with Dana, they would have never had the guts to press him on this.
Well, the first problem was that he broke that shin bone. He was recovering from that.
So then again, the injury, spouts the injury, excuse yet again, even though it's been almost, it's going on 3 years. It was in June or July of 2021. July 2021. It's March of 2024.
That was one of the reasons we had it. And the other problem is he's fucking rich.
And how does that present?
By the way, listen to the other MMA media. Probably the normal guys that go there and are scared of Dana. They're cackling. Oh, Dana, you're so funny.
An issue to you with negotiations?
What do you mean?
Well, I'll ask, does Conor McGregor...
Conor McGregor doesn't need money.
So are we at a point here where Conor McGregor may never fight for the UFC? Can you say that?
By the way, is Dana on coke? Look at the way he's just constantly licking his lips. I guess he just has a dry mouth. But I don't understand. It's one or the other. What Dana does here is gish gallop. He throws out a million different reasons why Conor's not fighting. But if he's injured, it would have nothing to do with the money. If it's a money issue, okay, he could be injured, but why would you be discussing, his money if it's an injury issue? It just makes no sense.
If you had shitloads of money, would you be sitting here right now asking me this fucking question?
No.
No, you would not. That just answered your question.
So he thinks he's going to deflect here, but he doesn't. This media member keeps pressing him.
Well, I answered no. So you're saying there's a chance that Conor McGregor will not fight again for the UFC?
I don't know. Conor McGregor's got a lot of money, and anytime we get Conor, we'll be happy to, be thrilled when he comes and fights. But
imagine hearing this answer. This is February 17th, so it's probably February 18th because it's probably past midnight at this point. And Michael Chandler said on January 4th, he's getting ready to leave his family in a couple weeks for the Conor McGregor training camp. Pre-camp. Imagine hearing that answer from Dana White. But again, we're going to break this down more here in a second.
Money complicates a lot of things. He just filmed a movie. He's got to do the press for the movie, and he's got obligations with that. And he does want to fight this year, but we'll see what happens.
Again, has a movie, has too much money, has an injury.
Part of the issue that Conor...
That's the only issue.
Is there an issue,
There's no other issue.
Look, he doesn't even want him to get the question out. I covered this before. Doesn't even want him to get the question out.
That's it.
Wanting to re-sign him to a longer contract?
Conor McGregor has probably been one of the best business partners we've ever had. Doing business with Conor getting Conor to show up to shit on time is a problem. But Conor, as far as the business goes, for a guy, everybody talks about how Conor used to be on the dole and all this stuff. For a guy that was on the dole, Conor McGregor is a very good businessman, and Conor McGregor has always been a great partner to us.
So I don't understand how those two things go together. Oh, he's got too much money. That's why we haven't done business, but he's really easy to do business with. Those two things don't go together. They don't go together at all. So again, just a million excuses.
There's never any hanging out and haggling for money or, you pay me more money. Conor McGregor has never done anything even remotely close to that. It's the exact opposite.
So he's never asked for money, ever. That makes no sense. There's been public negotiations between Conor and the UFC before, but Conor's never asked for a raise in the history of his connection to the UFC. That's what Dana's saying here.
When it's time to dig in and get to work and make money, he's probably the most incredible partner we've ever had, to be honest with you.
Okay, this is crazy. When it's time to dig in and make money and go to work, well, it was since February of last year when you announced The Ultimate Fighter and sold wolf tickets to people who watched that season. I mean, I shame on you if you did watch it, but I feel bad for you as well.
All right, and I have one last question with regard to Wanderlei Silva.
Okay, so there we go. That's the entire post-fight. Okay, now you've heard those Same arguments from Dana White, injury, too much money, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, Conor McGregor's been begging to fight nonstop, and I've had a theory about that. We're going to break it down again in this video because I was one of the first people to break down this theory, and now it's kind of becoming a little bit more common, and now we know it's confirmed by Conor McGregor now. Let's look at the first interview. This is a clip I showed in my video from a couple days ago, but this is just to show context, and this is only a very short clip. This is Conor asked, I think you'll be busy June 29th, because Conor came out and said, I'm fighting June 29th. Dana White came out and shot that down. And watch the way Conor reacts to this.
And I think you're going to be busy towards the end of June. So.
I'm hoping to get it. You can tell Hunter, your man, that you know this new.
Look at that. I'm hoping. Tell Hunter. Hunter Campbell is the UFC's lawyer, who's like Dana's right-hand man, who was kind of installed by WME, who negotiates some contracts, especially for tough to re-sign fighters.
Okay, in there to get the ball rolling. You know, I've got this workload here, a lot of press, a lot of partying at St. Patrick's, and after that, I'm in fight camp. I got my team here, we're ready to go. So
there you hear him basically begging Hunter Campbell, let's get a fight going. I hope to be back soon, okay? Now this next clip, and again, I showed this in the video from the other day, but this is just a very short clip. He talks about training camps. Remember, Dana said, I got to make sure he's in camp and make sure he's healthy and blah, blah, blah. Listen to this.
You know, I'm wrapping up this tour. I've got the St. Patrick's Day festivities going, and then I'm going to get back and regroup. I'm going to test myself physical-wise on the treadmill and do the RAM test and go about the McGregor fast away and get myself right back. I had a camp in Cannes, the south of France. I had a camp in Dubai at World Champions training with me where I was hoping for a December date, then a January date, and then it keeps getting pushed back. Then I lose interest and stop training for a while.
There you go. So we had 2 fight camps. Dana White said he's injured. Dana White says he doesn't want to fight because of money. Dana White says, I have to make sure he's in camp. There you hear all those things right there. And Conor McGregor easily debunks them in this media tour. Now, this most recent clip that probably a lot of people haven't seen yet is Conor McGregor, again, doing another Roadhouse promotional interview. And he finally confirms what's going on and what I've been saying for a while. In case you haven't been following it, and I'm sorry if you guys have watched a lot of these videos and already know what I'm about to say, I've been saying it for a while. It's contract issues with the UFC and Conor McGregor. The UFC doesn't like when high-profile fighters fight out their contracts. They get down to two, three fights left. They like to re-sign them to a long-term deal because they don't want them fighting out their contract because then they have leverage. This is what happened with Francis Ngannou. They iced Francis Ngannou because Francis Ngannou was trying to fight out his deal. That's why Dana White and a lot of fans are saying Ngannou was inactive. He was asking for fights. The UFC was icing him. The whole thing about we have to offer these guys 3 fights a year for their deal, that's just not true because even if they don't offer them that, taking the UFC to court would essentially ruin your career because you'd be tied up in litigation for literally years. So Conor has 2 fights left on his contract, which I've said in previous videos. He wants to fight out his contract and have leverage over the UFC and potentially go box in Saudi Arabia. If Francis Ngannou's getting $10 million, if Francis Ngannou's getting $20 million, Conor McGregor's thinking, what can I get? And also, even though, I'm not saying he's going to win against a Manny Pacquiao or whatever, but Conor looks at boxing, he's like, well, that's easier than fighting Chandler in the UFC. That's easier than fighting Justin Gaethje or whoever else in the UFC. I'd rather go box, and they're going to pay me $50 million. The UFC's not paying him $50 million. The UFC's paying him like 10, 15, maybe $20 million. I don't know what his exact purse is. But the point is, I've been saying for a while, Conor McGregor wants to fight out his deal. And he says it right here. He says, I got 2 fights left on my deal, and we're in negotiations because the UFC's trying to re-sign him to a long-term deal. Listen to this.
I'm looking forward to getting back and regressing,
By the way, regressing, I think he misspoke there.
resetting and recalibrating and mapping my return to the octagon. I'm eager for that. We're in the first quarter of 2024.
Yeah.
There's still a good chunk of the year left.
So there he's saying, I want to fight this year. Dana's saying, he's injured. Dana's saying he has too much money. Conor's been saying for a while, you're keeping me from my way of living. I want to fight. Give me a date. There's another clip where he's like, give me a date. But listen to what he has to say also, the negotiations.
I've got 2 fights left on my contract. Negotiations are ongoing. So when the promotional work of the movie comes to an end, when the St. Patrick's Day festivities come to an end, it's isolation.
Priorities, Conor, I like
it's
it.
Isolation and it's focus. And
So there you hear. Negotiations are ongoing, and I have 2 fights left on my contract. Conor McGregor is trying to fight out his deal. That is why Dana White is sitting him on the sidelines. Because if it was up to Conor, he would have fought in December and then maybe fought in like March or April or maybe May and then he's out of his UFC contract. Now there's more stipulations to that contract, the exclusive negotiating period and the rights to match, but he would have been a lot further along to getting out of that restrictive contract. And also, most likely Conor McGregor has the sunset clause built into his contract that was added after 2017 because of the antitrust lawsuit. They've since modified it to make it a little bit more restrictive. But basically, whenever Conor signed his last deal, 5 years from that date, he can leave the UFC, just like Francis Ngannou did when the UFC claimed that they cut him. So essentially, Conor McGregor is butting heads with the UFC and Dana White. He either is looking to get more money than they're willing to offer him for a long-term deal, but I think at the end of the day, I think Conor McGregor wants to follow the lead of a Francis Ngannou and head to Saudi Arabia and box for much more money than the UFC is willing to give him to fight absolute killers like Michael Chandler in the UFC. I do think if they come to an agreement, I think most likely he will not fight Michael Chandler. He may, but I think if they come to an agreement, I think they're going to give Conor McGregor more of a softball return. Maybe the dead body of Tony Ferguson. Maybe somebody else that's much more manageable than Michael Chandler. Not that Michael Chandler, is a super hard fight. He's not an Oliveira. He's not a Makhachev. He's not a Justin Gaethje. But Chandler's in the gym 24/7. Meanwhile, Conor's out at the club drinking 24/7. So it wouldn't shock me if he does come to terms with the UFC and he ends up fighting Nate Diaz in a trilogy. But Conor's goal is to negotiate a large deal or just fight out the last 2 fights on his contract. And I wish more media members, when they have these interviews, and this isn't really MMA media, I wish they would ask him, are you looking to re-sign a new long-term deal, or what is going on? What exactly is going on here? But I believe I know what's going on. He's trying to get out of his deal. He wants to go box in Saudi Arabia, and the UFC is going to have to really make him an offer that he cannot refuse. And then hopefully we get an active Conor McGregor in the UFC. I still have my doubts about that. I definitely wouldn't be leaving my family in early January to prepare for a fight against Conor McGregor that may or may not happen. But all these clips coming together, and you see Dana White, injury, money, movie, blah, 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 so on and so forth. The only thing he wasn't lying about was the movie and the promotion for the movie. Dana White's just blowing smoke up everyone's ass because he's not going to say, oh, we're in negotiations with Conor McGregor. We're trying to sign him to a long-term deal because we don't want him to do what Francis Ngannou did. So I understand why he's lying, but I just find it funny that he uses all these different excuses when really he's just lying to you guys and selling wolf tickets and pretending like this fight's going to happen. And I know people are like, you're already telling me something I already know. I've been covering this for over a year now. And a lot of people were excited. I remember people telling me last summer, Joey, calm down. It's going to happen by the end of the year. And I'm like, listen, you're getting your hopes up for nothing. It's not going to happen. And it didn't happen last year. Hopefully it happens this year. I'd love to see Conor back in the cage. I'm curious to see what he looks like after a 3-year layoff. That'll be a massive fight no matter who he fights. So he's in negotiations with the UFC. He has 2 fights left on his deal. We're going to see what happens in 2024. I will continue to scour the internet for important clips of Conor McGregor talking about his situation with the UFC. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.